It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the ToolShed Podcast. In this episode, going to be speaking to Bryn Harwood from Tradies Accountant. It's so important to talk about systems and processes and tools that you can use to keep track of the financial side of the business. It's kind of important. It's one of the really important things of business. So I think it's an important topic to unpack. Just before we meet Bryn, just want to remind you to jump into there's a link up there in the description and fill out the builder scorecard. Every business has generally one roadblock challenge that the business owner is that close to the coalface. It's really difficult to identify. 90 seconds, answer a few questions, and you will be able to identify what that issue is for you. And a couple of minutes later, you'll get some solutions for your specific issue in your inbox. So 90 seconds, good investment of time. Jump in there. It's a great way to move your business forward quite quickly. So let's get into this. Bryn, welcome to the podcast. I'm speaking really fast because you're potentially going to be hit by a cyclone at some stage in the next little while. So you need to get out of here and start to prepare for that. So I really appreciate you putting the time aside to be on the podcast under this sort of pressure. First question I love to ask is, how the hell did you get involved in what you're doing now? What's the backstory? What was going on that caused you to find this area to go to work in?
Yeah, hi Mick, thanks for that. We do have a cyclone coming at the moment, so hopefully all goes well and it's all safe. How did I get into the construction industry? I mean, I started being a generalist accountant, servicing, a bunch of different industries. And I guess that whole generalized kind of normal accounting kind of firm we ran. We'd identified that we were doing a lot of people in the construction industry. So what we decided to do was set up a company that was, purely based for construction services. So, we were doing anything from residential builders, commercial builders, contractors, to guys doing charge work.
So with being a specialist accountant in that trade space, is there any specific things that you notice that are either good or perhaps challenging working in that space compared to other non-construction businesses?
I guess the scary thing with the construction industry is that you could start off as a business turning over a very small amount, and you can quickly ramp that up to a big business. Like you could quickly, for instance, go from turning over, let's say, 300,000-400,000 to getting a couple of big contracts on big sites, and you're doing 5 million. And the scary part with that is, do you have the financial acumen and the back end office and, all the other things that are necessary to do that? And I think that's a really scary part of the construction industry in one respect. And I guess another element of it is there's a lot of risk in the construction industry as compared to some other industries. You've got regulators, building codes. There's just a lot of other, I guess, risks, not just your normal business risks.
Yeah. Part of what we're always trying to do with this podcast is to identify and promote tools, platforms, software, philosophies, ideas that make the builder's business more enjoyable and more profitable. And speaking to you before we hit the go button, that you are creating software platforms and tools and using AI to be able to help the trades-based business be able to manage the financial side of things. What are some of the real common, I suppose, high leverage errors that you see occurring in trades-based businesses from that accounting side of things that has caused you to put effort into creating these tools?
Oh, Mick, yeah, I think that's a really good point. And, that's probably one thing I'm really passionate about is using technology, to automate manual processes. And, what I see a lot is, people will be using different systems, different software systems, but then also doing things in a really manual way. So pulling things out of software, putting them in Excel spreadsheets, putting them in one system and then putting it in another system, and then still not really being able to see their data very well. So yeah, that's like I became really passionate about trying to kind of create automations that you could leverage technology and really limit the headcount as you kind of scale the business up.
Yeah. So what would be an example of something you've created? So, somebody listening would say, well, shit, I've got that problem. That tool or that software platform sounds like it could be an answer for me.
Yeah, 100%. So we used Microsoft, and we're using Microsoft Azure. And what we've done with that is being able to read documents like, for example, bills, and be able to do three-way matching with those bills. So be able to automatically log into the practice management software, find the corresponding purchase order, match the bill to the purchase order, and push that down to an approval process. And we've been doing that all using the large language models. So not OCR scanners where you have to have a predefined template. We've actually been doing it by putting them through the large language models and extracting the fields we want. And off the back end of that, what we're actually implementing is fraud protection on every single bill. So being able to check those bills, make sure that ABNs are active, make sure the BSB's account numbers are the same. But also now what we're moving to is being able to use predictive analysis. And that's where, like, using Azure and machine learning, I think in the next 5 years, everything's going to move to having, predictive analysis in some respect. So what I mean by that is being able to have the program actually look at your builds, identify the bills that are coming in, and then let you know what the margins on those jobs are going to look like moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that, and I'd love your opinion on this, because it's something we were talking about with our members just a little while ago, is that the way that the data is presented to you in some form of a dashboard, whether it might be a profit and loss sheet or what have you, has a huge impact on how you feel, your emotional response to your current situation. Therefore, it's going to impact your decisions, your responses, your reactions, all of that sort of stuff. How do you find communicating with your clients, and what systems do you use so they can see their financial position with some sort of accuracy? Because I know most people like myself is like I get put in front of a profit and loss sheet, and I understand what it is, but for some reason it doesn't inspire me or motivate me versus a dashboard that really shows me my financial position. So how do you work with your clients to really help them understand their financial position with accuracy?
No, that's a great question, Mick. And I think we're at the moment, we're trying to actually build out our own Power BI dashboards with our own visualizations. And I think what you said is exactly right. I mean, you can look at your job costing reports. You can look into your project management software and try and see what the margins are. You can look at your profit and loss, or if you've got cash flow projections, you can look at those. But personally, I think trying to have some type of dashboard with quick visualizations is a better way to see the data.
Yeah.
And something that I guess you don't need to actually be across all of the numbers in the business, but having a few key numbers in the business and tracking those key numbers, that's probably what's crucial. In my opinion, that's what kind of works.
Yeah. I notice also on the Tradies Accountant.com website, there's a bunch of services. There's bookkeeping, there's accounting, there are system improvement services, which we'd like to unpack a little bit more about. But I just find that having somebody that isn't a generalist in your corner, like accountant could be somebody who can look after pretty much any business, small, medium, what have you. But having somebody who specialises in the industry or even a niche in your industry, how important is that to be able to help the business owner make better decisions and make better progress?
Oh, yeah, Mick, I think Yeah, that can be crucial, and obviously that's why we started the business. And then I think as it's kind of evolved, you almost go from being niching to almost micro niching. So, like with us, for example, we've found ourselves working with particular softwares, and we found that that's our advantage, is that we actually understand that technology stack really, really well. And I guess, like, to answer the question, if you're dealing with an accountant that has 100 different businesses and 50 different industries, it's very hard for them to actually understand, for instance, what your technology stack is and what your issues around that technology stack are and how to kind of get the most out of that. And I think, like, a lot of businesses are probably going to head down having that really specialized advisor in their space, especially with AI now the way it is. I mean, you can go on Grok 3, you can go on ChatGPT, you can go on any of these kind of AI models, and they can probably answer a lot of questions. So you don't really need the general advice. In my opinion, what you need is someone that's in your industry all the time, dealing with the same pain point you're dealing with, and they've already overcome the same challenge you had previously and can give you the advice on what they did to overcome it.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We're always trying to bring you information that's going to make your life as a builder much easier. So give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. You mentioned our good friend AI. We've spoken about this a couple of times on the podcast, and it is obviously an amazing tool that creates a lot of efficiencies and effectiveness for business, saves a ton of time, can fix things with more accuracy and speed than the average superhuman. What are you finding with the attitude to AI? Because you're using it in some of the technology platforms that you're creating. Are people embracing it? Are people scratching their chin going, oh, I don't know, will the robots take over sort of scenario? What's the response you're getting?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm working with a bunch of clients that, in my opinion, are really embracing technology. Some of them are telling me what they're doing with the technology now and how they're using it. I think most people in construction are probably using AI to some degree, they're either going on ChatGPT or saying and doing their blogs, or they're doing some of their swims or whatever it is. They're probably utilizing it in some respect. Some are obviously looking to go further into that and how you can use agents and, what the technology stack looks like to be able to implement agents or implement some more heavier kind of, I guess, AI and variants of that in their business. Most of the big technology kind of providers already have agents inbuilt into their system. So, if you're using a CRM and you're using HubSpot, it's probably got that in. If you're using Dynamics or if you're using NetSuite, they've already got these inbuilt into the system already for you.
Yeah. Cruising around your website a little while ago, I just saw a blog post and it was about preventing fraud. And I'd be really interested in your thoughts about that. It's not a common conversation. But I do remember, where it has raised its head, even in our group, where somebody had sent a fraudulent invoice to a customer of one of our builders, and the customer paid it. It was a big chunk of change. I think it was all resolved, but there is a bit of this stuff around. What sorts of things do we need to be aware of? What things do you have in place to help people prevent getting caught up in that? Because it can be costly and scary.
Yeah, look, what we've been doing with our clients, we have an automated account payable solution, and then we're getting an actual lockdown of the authorized suppliers. And once we have that lockdown of authorized suppliers, we can actually match the domains, we can match the BSB and account numbers, and we can also match the ABN to make sure they're registered for GST and it's an active ABN that hasn't been deregistered. So, those things will eliminate fraud in terms of having, someone pretend like they're a supplier and changing the account details, and then you accidentally pay the wrong supplier. So, we've got that fraud protection inbuilt into our automated accounts payable program using Microsoft and Azure. The advantage with that is we don't send the data offshore either. It's all processed inside of Azure, which is, in our opinion, safer. But yeah, fraud is a huge thing, like fraud, cyber protection, people logging in, pretending like they're somebody else and getting a payment. I've seen that happen with clients, and it's prevalent out in the industry. So, if you're processing data, you want to be ensuring that you're doing something to make sure that the data's accurate.
Yeah, scary stuff, but it is happening, and we've got to do everything that we can to protect ourselves. The pathway to Tradies Accountant, somebody listening to this goes, I haven't really got anybody in that pigeonhole. I need to talk to somebody. What's the pathway to you guys? What's the way to contact you? And when they are contacting you, what's the expectation of what they will experience? What sort of things do you take them through to find out whether you can help them or not?
Yeah, great question again. We're pretty technology focused, so we're looking at what technologies they're using. We're looking at, how they're processing things and where they need help, and pretty fast to tell whether it's the right fit for us as well with the client. So not every client obviously is going to have the right fit with us. And, the client also needs to do their own due diligence to work out whether we're the right firm for them. So, to answer your question, we get a lot of obviously referral work that comes in. We're dealing with some pretty good partnership kind of networks at the moment. And, obviously we've got a website that people go on, lodge forms, but, most of the questions and the things we'll be looking at is what technologies you're using, what current pain points you have, trying to identify, where and how we could provide a solution for you. And yeah, hopefully the fit has to be right on both sides, as you'd understand me.
Yeah. And obviously you're up in northern New South Wales where a bit of wind is on its way and a bit of rain. What are you finding these days? There always used to be this thing where, I had to go and see my accountant or my bookkeeper or whatever, and it was a face-to-face. I'm assuming that isn't the case so much anymore, and you can take people on from anywhere in the country?
Just to correct you, we're in Queensland. So northern New South Wales, if you're watching State of Origin or something, people might be a bit upset. We're definitely Queensland. I'm in Brisbane here. So
that's right. You did tell me that. I was speaking to somebody else from northern New South Wales a few minutes ago.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I've actually a lot of clients in Sydney, a few clients coming in from Western Australia, Adelaide. We got clients all across Australia now. In fact, I'm here at my office at the moment, but I think I've probably done maybe 1 or 2 appointments in my office this year. So nearly all my appointments are through Microsoft Teams. And I actually encourage clients to use, Teams or Zoom or something like that. I actually use agents. So we use Copilot. We record all our meetings. The agent can go and do the transcriptions. We can create agendas off that. So in my opinion, actually, meetings are better digitally. And that's just like the way of the future now. And I think probably that evolved fast through COVID, obviously, where we were all forced to kind of work at home, and we didn't really have an option at that point. And then everybody started using technology. And then I think, after that, it just became more practical to actually use technology. And I think that's been great for business because it's opened companies like myself up to being able to have a national offering, I guess, but still be based in a certain location. Wherever that is across Australia doesn't seem to make too much difference.
Yeah. You're either a mind reader or something's going on, because the next question I had loaded in the barrel to fire at you was about technology and where you think it could be going. Like what could be the situation for business, particularly in the construction industry, using technology in the next 3 to 5, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think there'll be a radical change over the next 5 years, and I think it's already coming. So in my opinion, the steps will be people are going to use automations more. Those automations are going to now start to get rid of manual data entering. in my opinion, people will stop shifting data offshore and processing it offshore at a lower base, and they'll start processing it onshore through technology like we're doing. And then I think the next steps in that is that you'll be using machine learning. So using, say, Azure, for example, that's what we use. You'll be putting data into that and you'll be getting responses from that using the machine learning side. And then I think the next steps are you'll be using agents. So, if you look at where Microsoft's saying things are going to go, is that you'll have agents for a lot of different things, like, for example, customer service agent, sales agent, financial agent. And these agents will actually go and replace what we were originally doing through manual data entry, whether that be onshore or offshore. That's how I see, I guess, the next 5 years kind of looking. And I think it's probably going to be an arms race on who can develop the technology faster and better and who's going to use it. Obviously, if you're using technology, you're probably going to be doing it at 30% of the cost of doing it, let's say, offshore or onshore manually.
Yeah. And there's probably not a lot of reason, I'll say it, but it won't stop it from happening. I think that there will still be resistance, people, don't like change, all that sort of stuff. But I think the technological changes that are going to happen, as you just said, it's going to be a little bit like a drum solo at a rock concert. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And we just might as well figure out how to use it to the best of our ability.
A good analogy might be like, back then people were using maybe white pages or yellow pages and putting their business on yellow pages, and they're probably reluctant to move to the internet and, get a website and things like that. There were probably people sticking to the traditional based methods. But I think, like, with the invent of AI and agents, I think that would probably be a similar context to when we got the internet and websites. Yeah. That might be a similar kind of context, I'd imagine.
Yeah. We don't even get the yellow pages anymore to put underneath your computer monitor to lift it up a bit higher. We have to use other things now. So it's a bit of a shame, but that's just the way it goes. Mate, I want to thank you so much for putting the time aside and coming and talking to us on the podcast, particularly with everything that's happening or going to happen that you've got to deal with. So I really, really appreciate it. Love what you're doing in the space and helping out the construction industry. That's what we're here for, to find other people that are doing that and increase the awareness of your existence and help make trades-based businesses and builders' businesses far more enjoyable, effective, and obviously profitable. So love what you're doing.
Thanks, Mick. And I just wanted to say thanks for having me on the podcast. And I think, same to you. What you're doing is great. I mean, construction tradies, they all need more education. And so, having different people on here talk about different things provides a really good platform for them to be able to come on and get that education and not have to pay an arm and a leg to get it, to be able to get it for free. I think it's amazing what you're doing. So thanks for having us on board. Absolute.
Look after yourself. I hope everything works out okay. Let me know after it passes that all is good. And hopefully we'll be talking to you again on the podcast at some stage in the future.
Definitely, Mick. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. That's it, folks, for this episode of the podcast. I hope this short conversation got you thinking. There are so many things that you can bring into your business with somebody who specialises in that space and understands the industry, but also understands the specific issues that happen within these businesses, in the trades-based businesses, and having somebody in your corner that understands it, but is also looking forward and seeing what technological shifts are happening and how it can be implemented into your business. So the tradiesaccountant.com link to that website will be in the description. Just click on that, reach out, have the discussion, see if they're the right fit, and get some help in your corner for that financial management of your business, systems, processes, all of that cool stuff. That is it. We'll be talking to you again in another episode of the ToolShed Podcast. Before you know it, before we get out of here, just one more reminder to make sure you hit the link on for the Builder's Scorecard and get that suggestion on how to overcome your ideal or your unidentified issue, roadblock issue as we call it. and some solutions on how to overcome that will be in your inbox very shortly after you take the scorecard. It's only 90 seconds. So there you have it. That is it for this episode. I'm Mick Horse from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.